If you've been sensing that there is an opt to break apart the MAGA coalition, the America First coalition, and to wreck President Trump's winning unified ticket that won him all 7 swing states, the popular vote, and a triumphant landslide victory in 2024, well, you'd be right, because there is no opposition. The reason why I'm very bullish on Republicans winning for a very long time, for the next 100 years of MAGA, is because I can see what the Democrats have to offer. The Democrats are flat broke. The RNC has hundreds of millions of dollars. The DNC has $3 million in debt. The DNC is an absolute and total dumpster fire. Democrats are panicking. Their disapproval ratings are 72%, negative 52 on disapproval. Obviously, I'm sitting here looking at things that Republicans could do better. I think it's critically important to hold your own party accountable. But this is a very bad look. Approval rating among men for the Democrat Party, disapprove, 78%. There was 16% approval rating. And you wonder why they need open borders, why they need illiterate criminals to come in. The best thing the GOP has going for it in November is miserable opponents. The DNC is flat broke. They have no ideas. They have no champions. They have no unified message. They have nobody that could actually carry a message anyway. Everybody who they put up, it's either Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom. They're already embroiled in their own fraudulence. And now the federal government is wrapping up all of the fraud that's been happening in states like Minnesota, New York, and California. And it's going to look nightmarish by the time we get to 2028. It's a convoluted way of saying that 16% of males are gay. If you are a dude and you vote for Democrat, you must forfeit your man card immediately. These are the rules. I was at the DNC convention. I personally witnessed the vasectomy bus going around. There was a free vasectomy bus at the DNC convention, and Democrat soy boy cuck dudes were lining up around the corner. I asked them on camera, do you have any slots? You have any availability? And they're like, no, we're booked out for the entire DNC to do vasectomies, to cut people's balls off, right? In the back of a van, traveling down a pothole-filled road in Chicago. It sounds like a terrible afternoon. For me, ladies and gentlemen, I just cannot explain to you how we can only defeat ourselves here. I don't like $4 a gallon gas. I don't like the war in Iran. I'm not a big fan of foreign adventurism. I hope that it all gets wrapped up quickly. I do like some of the activities to cement and secure our hemisphere. I've been open about that. Havana is 90 miles from where I live. Havana is, I just checked this. Havana is like a 90-minute flight direct from Tampa, Florida. And so these are the kind of Maduro, they could block the Gulf of America and so on and so forth. These are the kind of things that I see as huge values. Like obviously Brazil, for instance, has a much higher net value to us. Controlling our hemisphere is a massive value. Canada shares the longest border, Mexico. Anyway, so I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of controlling our sphere of influence. I'm just saying we can only hurt ourselves here. There are so many people that have lit themselves on fire, crashed out, embarrassed themselves, burnt their MAGA hats, and are just a complete humiliation to themselves. Because just effeminate, overly emotional, estrogenetic energy, just because of a policy they didn't like. Okay, well, that's just what happens in politics. There's no such thing as a perfect politician. There's no such thing as somebody who's going to do what you want all of the time, forever. It's like my issue with Thomas Massey. It's like libertarians are like 4% of the electorate. I'm not saying you should discount them. Donald Trump's done an unbelievable work on behalf of libertarians. Ross Ulbricht is free, for instance. That was like a libertarian deal that they cared so very much about. This was a massive issue for libertarians. Donald Trump pardoned him, freed him. Same thing with Julian Assange. But they don't care about that, right? It's like the boutique issues of the day are going to rule. And if I don't get 100% of what I want, then we're going to vote Democrat? No, man. The logic doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's because I have little kids. Maybe it's because I'm a business owner that I actually care about this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's beautiful to see. Not laughing, I swear, Democrat Party approval is through the floor. You mean threatening to crush America's soul isn't popular? Democrats decided to dump money into Texas. That's money they're not spending on North Carolina, Maine, Michigan, Georgia. Republican argument is we'll have to spend more is dumb. Democrats have to spend more too. This is obviously why it is critically important for us to be fighting on all fronts and have strong candidates in like Kentucky 6. That's a Trump plus 40 district. You should be able to count on the member of Congress who represents that district to vote with the president, especially when you have razor thin margins. The House may be decided by one seat. This is what it is. I hate that it is that way, but it is what it is. This is also why California is important. Democrats are already broke. They're going to sink money that they don't have into hopeless races like Texas. If we can force a fight in California, we can force even more enemy money that they don't have because they already spent $100 million of it in Virginia to play defense in dark blue states. President Trump keeps racking up wins. Democrats are broke and should be worried about what's coming up in November. The DNC also just released their autopsy, quote unquote, which is not an autopsy at all. It's illiterate. DNC autopsy takeaways: cast Biden operation as having neglected Harris, points to broad failure to define Trump, says Harris and her campaign took too much for granted, cast Trump transgender ad as very damaging to Harris, suggests a shift away from identity politics and towards a middle class appeal, cast Republicans as just better at politics, and says that Harris at least helped other Democrats more than Biden would have. It says that Democrats need to spend earlier. Okay. CNN released their analysis at an autopsy. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Read it, obtained by CNN. Here's the CNN breakdown of what the autopsy actually said. What an absolute and total cluster, ladies and gentlemen. And before I show you that, just a reminder: Republicans are set to win the Senate. That's the odds are. Democrats are set to win the House, but we'll see. The odds have been wrong before. And here we go. Here's CNN crying about the DNC autopsy. When you've lost CNN, you've got real problems here. Here's what they found.
We've obtained the Democratic National Committee's so-called autopsy report examining Kamala Harris's 2024 election loss to Donald Trump after President Biden ended his campaign. The document finds the party has steadily lost ground since President Obama's successes and blames the former Biden campaign and the White House for failing to set Harris up for success. The DNC report also uncovered a broader inability to define Donald Trump and criticizes the Harris campaign for taking too much for granted. It urges Democrats to shift away from identity politics and move toward a middle-class appeal. Joining us now here in the Situation Room is Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz of Florida. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. Simply stated, this document that we just obtained, CNN just obtained, it casts Republicans as just better at politics right now. What's your view of these findings?
Well, I haven't seen it since it just came out, but obviously, like, an autopsy is a medical procedure you do over a corpse. And now it sounds like we need a malpractice attorney because we couldn't even do the autopsy correctly. So, look, we know how we got here, right? Obviously, it was the Joe Biden issue at the debate. It was the switch over to Kamala without a process. And at the end of the day, Democrats weren't talking enough about affordability in the economy. And that's what we need to be doing. And we've been doing that ever since the election. And so, look, we lost the last election. It wasn't close, okay? But the fact that we can't even tell people why, we're too afraid to tell them the truth. They know the truth. They saw the debate. They saw what happened, right? And they saw that we got killed in the election. We lost every swing state. So they can write whatever document they want, but Democrats know why we lost.
The report, as you know, is silent on several notable aspects of the 2024 presidential campaign. For example, it does not include any judgment at all about President Biden's decision to run for re-election in the first place, or the Kamala Harris's campaign, now infamous decision not to do an interview with podcast host Joe Rogan. Has your party, the Democratic Party, sufficiently reckoned with its past missteps to succeed in future elections?
I think we have. I think we have reckoned with that. Whether the DNC has reckoned with that is a different question. Obviously, the fact that they, wanted to worked on a document that doesn't tackle maybe the 2 or 3 largest problems in the last election kind of tells you that, like, some of the folks there were in denial of what happened. The American people know that's why the election wasn't close. We had never seen anything like this in our history. Look, Joe Biden served for 50 years in Washington, right? He has an amazing legacy, and he will go down as someone who gave his entire life right, to the political process and public office. But the American people saw that debate, and then they saw how we transitioned and got out of it. We were in a box at that point, and that's not what the American people wanted, and that's why we got shellacked in the last election. I mean, we lost every single solitary swing state. And so
it wasn't even close.
Wasn't even close. Now listen, now we got a whole other problem as a result of that, right? We got 18 months of the Trump administration, right? Gas prices in the mid $5. Affordability is even worse. Inflation's even worse. Food prices are even worse. So those very issues that were going on in the last campaign when we were talking about Bidenomics and all of that, and we were trying to tell people how to feel, Donald Trump has adopted that strategy. He's telling people how to feel in really bad economic times. And that's also not going to work for him. And so Democrats now need to be going out and telling that story, which is he told you it was going to be better, and it's worse.
I want to turn to another very sensitive political story I know you're following very closely. The Texas Democratic Congress